All right, everyone, welcome to another class of Tanya. We'll start off with L'chaim. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay. So, chapter 15, great chapter. I mean, chapter 15 is going to be very big stuff because it's not a question of tonight's lesson or the beginning of the chapter. It's not a question of where you're holding. It's a question of are you pushing yourself. So you have two guys. You have two guys on a ladder. Which one's higher? So normally you think if the guy's on a higher rung, he's higher.
It's your perspective.
It's not your perspective. It's a question of which way are they going.
That's what I'm saying. Which way are they going?
If the guy who's on a higher rung but going down is lower than the guy who's lower on lower rung going up. So what is demanded from every person is you got to push yourself. You got to push yourself beyond your
Comfort level?
Your comfort level. In fact, which ties in very nicely to what we're now standing right before Passover. And Passover we go out of Egypt. Now the Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim comes from the Hebrew word Mitzarim. Mitzarim means constriction. And Egypt told the Jewish people, no, you got to see it this way. This is the way it has to be done. Right? When Moses came to Paro and said, let the Jewish people go, what did Paro say? That's not normal. You can let the whole workforce go and waste time and everything else. It's not normal. It's just not the way it's done. You know, and we have a planned out for society. You know, it's like the Paro was the head of the HOA. This is the way things are always done, and you can't go to the right, you can't go to the left. And going out of Egypt is allowing yourself to go out of that narrow frame of mind, and you gotta push yourself. And I was telling people that matzah. Why is it so important to have the round matzah on Pesach? Because the round matzah is called the bread of faith. Matzah is called bread of faith. You know what? Because the Jewish people exhibited a tremendous act of faith by leaving Egypt. God, now we know the story. So they went and they had the mud and everything else. They went out with a month's supply of matzah. They ate the matzah for a month. They had no idea how long they're going to be in the desert. They had zero idea. All they knew is God said, "Come, we're going." They had no idea what's going to be with sandwiches, with bread, with water. You know what I'm saying? You always know which families are Jewish when they're traveling, right?
You're going out into the desert. Not a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. There's no Chinese restaurant. I went on a cruise. My family, it was winter vacation, so half the ship was Jewish. There was like 400 Jews, 450 Jews. So you could always tell. Sometimes they confiscate things on the way into the ship and the way out. They give back. Mm-hmm. How do you know which ones were the Jews? Because the Jews had all the sandwich makers and all the in-room appliances. Right? Probably thinking, what's going on over here? Right? So that's what it is. So you could be a great guy, and you could be a guy that's very well observant. But the question, that person you have to ask yourself is, am I trying to get better? And this is what we're going to learn. So we said in the previous chapter, Alter Rebbe discussed the difference between a tzaddik and a beinoni. Tzaddik has no evil inclination. There's no evil in the soul. The beinoni, however, evil remains strong. Therefore, the beinoni finds evil desirable. It's only through constant vigilance and struggle of his nefesh halakis, his divine soul, that he's able to prevent his nefesh bahamis, his animal soul, from implementing his desires and thought. V'zeh yuva, and here goes. But this will understand Masher Kasu, what is written in the verse in Malachi. Malachi is one of the later prophets. It says, "Shaftem Risa," and you will turn and you will see the difference between tzaddik l'rasha, between a righteous man and a wicked man. That's obvious. Then he says, "Bein oived Elokim," to a servant of God, "V'asher lo yavodai," and to one who doesn't serve him. Now, do you think the servant of God over here is referring to the righteous person, and the one who doesn't serve him is referring to the wicked person? It's not.
It would seem logical.
But it's not, because everybody knows what a tzaddik is. Everyone knows what a rasha is. If I'm using too much Hebrew terms, interrupt me, right? So the verse could have been mirrored. This is biblical text. So we don't use two words when you could use one. You already said a tzaddik and a rasha. There's no need to add a poetic language. A tzaddik, obviously, is somebody who serves God. A rasha is obviously someone who doesn't serve God. It's obvious. It's superfluous to say those words. So now we can understand that when it says a person who serves God and a person who doesn't serve God, it's not referring not to the tzaddik and not to the rasha. It's referring to another person, the hero of our book, the Beinani. And you can have a Beinani, the average man, who's a servant of God, and a Beinani who's not a servant of God. And you can ask if if you remember from previous chapter, the Beinani doesn't do anything wrong, not in thought, not in speech, and in action, and you're calling this guy not a servant of God. What do you expect from the guy? What do you want? So now we're going to understand in the old print 216, the difference between a servant of God and a tzaddik who she'oived. The word oived is a servant. Oived is present tense. He works. He's a schwitzer. Now in Yiddish, by the way, schwitzer is usually a bad. Not good.
No. Schwitz is something other. You're thinking of shots.
No. When you say he got the schwitzer, it means he's a hustler.
Well,
Or he's always thinking business. Schwitz is the hustler, right? Oived means he's working. The way you would say he's a servant of God present. If you wanted to say he was a servant, he was an avad. He served, right? So the oived is serving God. It means what does it mean, oived? Oived, servant is not really a good word. Because how do you say Hebrew word for work? Avodah. Avodah means to work. Work means you're
Day job.
no, but you're immersed in it, right? It's not something you just do on if you're blue collar, white collar, whatever it is. You're taking your attention. He's in the middle. He's in the middle of a divine service. What is the divine service? This is the fight. This is the fight with the evil inclination. To overpower him, and to try to banish him, to kick him out. Me'ir Katana, from the small city, which remember from chapter 9, the small city is the person. The small city is the person, and you have the good king, the evil inclination, the good inclination, and the bad king, and the evil inclination, and each one wants dominion. And he's fighting not to allow the evil inclination to find expression, beveria guf, in the limbs of the body. That's be'emes aveda. That is constant battle, true battle, v'amal gadol, and it's very hard work. Lilachem b'tamid. Not to get political, but to get political. Now what's going on with Israel? Well, people don't understand, and this is unfortunate, but the war with Hamas is never ending. So it's a constant battle. Like Golda Meir said. So Israel says they put down their guns, no more war. Israel put down its guns, no more Israel. Because there are people there that their sole focus is fixated on destroying Israel. So Israel has to be right on top of its game 100% of the time. You get lazy, you get October 7th. But we all have that terrorist inside of us, and we always have to be constantly vigilant. So you're constantly working. The Hayino Beinani. This is the Beinani. What did we say the Beinani was in chapter 12? And we said in chapter 13, the Beinani is somebody who spends his entire life fighting that negativity inside of him, and it could be he'll never drive him out. Avla Tzaddik Nikra Avad. Eved Hashem. That tzaddik is called a servant of God, not he's in service. He's a servant because he reached. What's a tzaddik? Hey, a tzaddik is a person who. Yeah, a tzaddik is a person. A tzaddik is a person who doesn't have any inclination. So sometimes we get up in the morning and should we go to shul? Not go to shul, right? Should wash our hands, say modani. We fight. Tzaddik wakes up in the morning and says, "Yeah, baby, let's do this." Prayer. I mean, most of us don't wake up that way. So a tzaddik is a servant of God. He's reached it. B'shem ha'toyar. It's a title. It's a descriptive term. Kamoy shem chacham, like a guy's a wise guy, not a wise guy like in New York. He's a wise person. Now, a person who's studying in college, you don't call him a wise man, because you have no idea what he is. Maybe in the future he'll be. Chacham is somebody who's attained knowledge, or melech, king. Either you are a king or you're not. But when you're in the process, or running to be president, either you're president or you're running to be president, it's a title. Shekvar nasa chacham, he's already become a sage or a melech or a king. Kach zeh, same thing with this tzaddik. Kvar ovar v'gamar the gamri avodas samacham. He already finished the fight with the evil inclination. Which, by the way, I want to point out over here. You see, interesting. The Alter Rebbe didn't say that the tzaddik never had an evil inclination. Everyone's born with an evil inclination. Now, some people are like Moses, who are born with a very, very little evil inclination, and it doesn't take a lot to banish it. Doesn't help when your parents are. It doesn't hurt. Sorry, when your parents are Amram and Yecheved, like the leaders of the generation, right? But everyone's born with an evil inclination. Everybody. But we said in what was it, chapter 14 that God, it's a present that God removes the evil inclination from them. But he already reached that point. Ad kiva until it's totally driven out, and like the King David said in chapter 139, I think it is. He said, or 149, or 144. And his heart is hollow inside of him. In the place where he used to have an evil inclination, or evil again is self-indulgence, now he's just a dry for godliness. So you can't call a tzaddik a schwitzer. He's not hustling, because there's no schwitzer can only mean when there's some opposition. Tzaddik has no opposition, right? Now in the Beinoni itself. Remember, let's see if you guys are paying attention. Who remembers? Now we have jelly cookies and Woodford for another shot, for double your money. Make you a deal, right? Who remembers? We asked the question, Rabbah, who was such a holy person that even the angel of death couldn't take his soul. He said, "I'm a Beinoni." And we said, how could Rabbah make that mistake? Who remembers the answer? No, you guys are too busy eating regular, huh?
No, that night we had potato chips.
He still has an evil inclination.
No, he didn't.
He didn't?
No, Rabbah was a tzaddik. We said the evil inclination, that the angel of death couldn't touch him. That's not, on the level of tzaddik, that's not normal. And by the way, if you look at Maimonides, when he goes through the generations of the Masorah, the tradition, starting from Moses, one of the guys that was, carrying the baton like in the Olympics, carry the baton, pass it on, is Rabbah. So I'm just like, he's not. So how can you make that mistake? We said a mistake is only something when something is similar. A tzaddik is someone, a Beinoni is someone doesn't. Rabbah never sinned. So we said because the Beinoni never sins, and the Beinoni is only fighting his impulse. But we said, if you remember chapter 13, when is he fighting his impulse? When he's not in the state of prayer and study. When he's in the state of ecstasy with love of God, the evil impulse is totally dormant. So Rabbah thought, maybe I have an evil impulse, I just never give it a chance to voice its opinion, right? So the Alter Rebbe is going to say over here, it's possible you have two kinds of Beinoni. You have one Beinoni that's pushing himself. One Beinoni is that I reached cruising altitude 33,000 feet, right? I do my mitzvah. No, I don't. I make sure I keep my Yetzer Hara at bay, but I'm fine. Or like sometimes when I ask people to put on tefillin, I'm good. No, you're not. You need to put on tefillin. No, really, I'm good. Right? So.
Did you ever figure out who that guy was that you put the filling on?
What? Oh, yeah. I got a text from somebody today. Please send me the picture of this guy's set. He put on tefillin. Like, I don't know who that is. He put tefillin on him. Okay. I put tefillin on.
Could you narrow it down?
Yes. I said, send me a picture of him, and I'll look for it. Yeah. So yeah. She sent me.
Here's a suggestion: you send yourself the photo with the person's name.
Yeah. Sometimes people come in once, whatever. Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. So Beinani, you're holding in the bottom of 217, where, in the old print, where it says the first of Shvat.
Yeah.
Um,
223.
220.
223 in the new.
223 in the new. Beinani, in the Beinani, is Gam Kein Shtei Madrigas. By the Beinani, there are also two levels. You have Oived Elikim. You have this is what the verse said. Remember, the verse in Malachi had the Tzaddik, the Rasha, the servant of God, and the one who doesn't serve God. So those two guys, the servant and the not servant, are talking specifically referring to the Beinani. You have the Beinani who serves God and the Beinani who doesn't. Afal Bikein in Russia. And although he doesn't serve God, he's not evil. He's not wicked. Why? Because although he's not serving God, he's not a servant of God, he's not doing an avera. And he also fulfills all the mitzvot she'efshar le'lekayim is able to fulfill. And he learns Torah every spare moment. Well, he pasuk b'm regirsa and he never wastes any time. Ella, what's the problem? So if he's doing everything and he's not violating anything, why isn't he a servant of God? He's never challenging himself. So let's say, for example, you have an observant Jew, right? The yarmulke, the white shirt, the peyot, the beard, the woolen tzitzit, right? He wakes up every morning and he has his shears class. He goes to the mikveh, he davens with a minion. He works. The guy is, he's by all accounts, beautiful Jew, right? Does everything he's supposed to, but every day is the exact same routine. So the question that you ask this guy is, how are you different today than you were yesterday? You got up and you went to minyan today and you gave charity, whatever it was.
Because today's a new day.
Because how do you push yourself still? If God wanted the same thing yesterday as today, then why do you wake up today? Obviously, because he's supposed to do something new. Now, new could be small incremental improvement. Doesn't have to be something, But what the Alter Rebbe is saying is, every single day, at the end of the day, when I know it's getting close, you gotta look back and have to ask yourself.
But new in what way? In the observance of God, or doing something for somebody else?
It could be.
It could be anything.
It could be whatever it is. Have you pushed yourself? Have you pushed yourself a little bit?
But in a way, life presents new things all the time, right?
Yeah.
With your kids or family and spouse and whatever.
That's what I'm saying. So every you look back and say, so usually I lose my temper, or or I'm less patient, right? Or usually I when I have some good gossip or something to say, I say it. Did I hold back, right? Or did I try to make bracha? Again, the concept is, are you trying to improve yourself every single day? That's really the Alter Rebbe saying. It's not a question of being a violator, a sinful person. You could be doing everything right, but that's what you're saying. You can have a guy who's religious, yada yada yada, observant, whatever you want to call him, orthodox, whatever those curse words, because there's no such thing as, because it's a false narrative. There's no such thing as an orthodox person. I mean, you go to Broadway, people dress up as clowns. Are they a clown? No, they're a person dressed up as a clown. So you could have a guy who's dressed up as an orthodox guy. Does that mean he's orthodox? I'll tell you a story. My friend told me the story. He's from London. He said there was once a group of missionaries in London. They try to go to house to convince Jews to talk about Christianity. But they show up looking like goyim. No one's going to listen to them. So they had an idea. They came dressed as Hasidic Jews. Right? The problem is they came into very, very, very Hasidic, not tolerant to these kind of guys. They're not going to say, no, we're not interested in. Basically saying, But came lunchtime.
Get off of my lawn.
Exactly. Came lunchtime and they were hungry. So where do goyim go when they're hungry at lunch? McDonald's. So these guys just they blew their cover because they went to, they're sitting there in McDonald's eating, and everybody knows Jews don't eat at McDonald's, right?
Unless
Even-
there's one in Israel.
Right, exactly. Well, now there's no more in Israel. Something.
Oh, there's no more in Israel.
So even the Gentiles were laughing at them, right? So you could be a guy who wears all the garb and everything else, and he's going through all the motions, right? He eats kosher, you chol Yisrael, no, not wet matzah, right? Whatever it is. But he's not putting any. He's just going through the motions. He's not putting any feeling in it. He's not pushing himself. He's not trying to pray maybe with a stop and focus a little bit. But davening with emotion doesn't mean he's sitting there for 45 minutes every single second. It's hard to go white knuckle at 100 miles an hour every second. Davening with emotion can mean, usually you run through it, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to read this paragraph with intention a little bit.
So,
I didn't do it yesterday. I'm doing it today. Sorry.
so speaking of emotion, listen to this.
Okay.
One of my customers on Monday comes in to buy mattress from me. An older guy, 85, starts talking to me about his wife, how she passed away in August, and he really misses her, and he just wishes he could close his eyes, but he's like, I still need a mattress to sleep on because mine's getting older and whatever. I'm like, listen, sit down, let's talk.
You don't have any almost dead mattresses?
No.
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know how to thank you because I know you make commission on the mattress that you would have sold me, but he's from West Virginia, totally just so down to earth, but he's like, I just wish I could close my eyes and go to sleep and not wake up. I was like, didn't know what to say other than what I told him.
Yeah, but think about it. Instinctively, so listen, my job is to sell mattresses, and I make a commission. I'm going to sit down with this guy, waste my time, lose sales. Right? That's the instinct that comes inside. Why am I wasting my time with this guy? But you push yourself. Here's a guy that needs help. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit there. That's working on yourself. Fighting the impulse where I want to do right away. That's called a servant, a servant of God. So a guy could be putting. No, guy could be. You remind me of the story. Guy asked the Alter Rebbe. Let's say every year I do a budget, and I know I'm going to give, let's say, $1,000 to charity, whatever, right? Whatever the number was. Obviously, it wasn't dollars; it was rubles or Durajin. He said, "Should I just give it one time,
Or 1,000 times.
or split it up?"
Yeah,
So what do you think the answer is?
the latter.
So you would think, give $1,000 and the rabbi can come hit you up for more, right now. But the Alter Rebbe wrote, he says, split it up. Why? Because every time it's another fight with your evil inclination. You're pushing, you're working on yourself. It's not just about doing the mitzvah. It's what the mitzvah does to you. That's what it's saying over here.
Feels better to give.
What?
It feels better to give than to get.
Well, it's true, and we should never be in. That's why before Rosh Hashanah, there's a custom to get honey cake, to receive honey cake, because just in case this year it was decreed that you should be you have to be in receiving end of anything, this should be the fulfillment of your of that decree.
Isn't it not a mitzvah if you do it with the intent of satisfaction and not just serving God?
I mean, you're getting something out of it.
Yeah, like you're doing it like I'm giving because it makes me feel good instead of giving because
it's true. That's true, but that's
the
a very
intention has to be.
Yeah, but at a very, very lofty level. To totally take yourself out of the picture. And we're talking about it in the previous class. Sometimes perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
And also to remember that I think that there is also training of the muscle.
Right.
Right? If you split that, you give $1,000 one time, but then instead you give like 1,000 people, you give them every single day.
I'm just saying whether you
Your
give
muscles
$1 or
of giving.
$1,000 or 1,000, if you're giving with the intent to give tzedakah to fulfill that mitzvah, not with the intent of making myself feel good because I'm fulfilling the mitzvah.
But again,
checking the box.
but this is what we spoke about in chapter, I think it was 10, whatever it is. That there's two types of love for God. There's the love of a burning fire, which you want to close the distance, right? And by doing a mitzvah, you feel like I'm closing the distance, I'm getting closer. And then there's the love of delight. Love of delight means you love. I'm just in the presence of God. That's a very, very, very high level. I mean, yeah, we should strive to it, but in no shape, way, form should we discount or discredit something we're doing good, because I used to have a guy call me up. I have a big meeting. Come put on tefillin. Now, because he wants God's blessing. I think I said, listen, Mister, unless you called me up, if I waited for people to do mitzvahs for the right reasons, I'd be out of business. So, the idea is you do a mitzvah, right? You do a mitzvah, but yeah, the idea is to try to push yourself. That's why, and Michael J is an expert at this. You come to shul once, okay, when I'm going to see you again, right? Because that's the idea.
Already books the next meeting.
No, I'm saying, but no, because that's the idea. You come to shul once, okay, now I'm here, I'm set. Now, okay. You know who was great at this? The Rebbe. people would come to the Rebbe and say, I just, finished a book, I wrote a book. Rebbe said, okay, start working on the second one. Or I just donated this. Okay, work on more. I remember the famous, we watched the video once on Sunday.
Yeah.
Guy said, oh, I just helped build a mikveh. Rebbe said, okay, now let's build like 20 more. I don't know if you remember that.
I have the Rebbe on YouTube videos, and it's those shorts, and it's every one of them.
Always because that's what Chassidus. That's what
We
Chassidus.
just did this. That's great. Now do.
No, because that's Chassidus 101. Always push yourself to improve. It's not so much the improve.
bit more.
It's not so much the observance. Because obviously, like the Alter Rebbe said, what you're not allowed to do, you can't do. When you're allowed to do, it's like when you're not allowed to do, you can't do. If it's forbidden, you can't do. When you're allowed to do, you don't have to do. Meaning, the idea is to always try to improve, not just observe. Obviously, you have to eat kosher and Shabbat, all that. But even in that realm of what you do, it's how you do it. Always try to do. And that's why every day you wake up with a new day. You put on tefillin yesterday, but how many of us before we put on tefillin, you're supposed to stop and think to yourself, Hashem took us out of Egypt, and because of that, and this is a sign between us. To stop and think. And if yesterday you didn't, and tomorrow you will. And
Tomorrow's a new day.
no, I'm saying, and that's called you're pushing yourself. Let's go a little forward. I got to run to a meeting. I'm already 5 minutes late. Okay. So he said, and he said, we're holding. At the bottom of 218. It says, Ella only so it's possible that the guy doesn't fight with his evil inclination to vanquish. To use the aid of the divine soul in his brain, Hashal to left to rule over his heart. So maybe he doesn't have to utilize his godly soul because he doesn't have such a strong Yitzhara. Some guys, let's say we don't have a problem, let's say with drugs, alcohol, girls, money, whatever it is, and if you don't have the problem, you could say, why can't you could just control yourself? I don't understand. I can drink one, I'm fine. Just have one. Yeah, because you don't have that Yetzirah.
Some people can't.
That's why you can't judge somebody. You don't know what's going on inside. So to you, you can have one shot and walk away, no problem. Or you can have one bagel and one problem. The other guy, it's a bagel and maybe a Danish, maybe a ruggle. And your mind, you're thinking, how? You don't understand. So it could be the guy's observant, not because he's special, because God just created him not with a drive for material pleasures. He's the guy that likes to read, likes to learn. He enjoys reading. He enjoys learning. Some guys like going to the beach. Some guys like learning. So he says, because the evil inclination does not oppose him so much to deter him from Torah study. And he doesn't have to fight with his evil inclination. Could go in, for example, there's top 219 in old print. He's naturally a studious person. Or he has a more of a dark or serious temperament. Right, so he's not into baseball, hockey, like NCAA tournament. It doesn't interest him. Not because he's a special guy. The famous story. There's a young man in Israel. Israel, they're very into soccer, and there was a big championship on Shabbat, and he really, really wanted to go. Not only really wanted to go, he even bought a ticket to go. Now his Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva, found out that this kid. This Rosh Yeshiva was a wise person. Not a smart person. He was that too, but a wise person. He calls him up and he says, listen, I hear you want to go to the game. He says, Rabbi, I really want to go to the game. So he says, listen, I'm a Torah guy, Yerushalmi doesn't know. By the way, I'll tell you a private story. Now, I went to yeshiva. So my Rosh Yeshiva, when I was there, it was a Yerushalmi Eisenbach. Eisenbach is an old Yerushalmi family. They didn't know anything about sports. They didn't know. To him, we were wild Americans, like wild Indians. So we had like an hour in Israel, like an hour and a half break by lunch. So I was bored. I saw a park like 2 blocks away, had a basketball in it. So I went and bought a basketball. I arranged the game, You guys see it. I've always been crazy about sports. The rabbi calls me and says, you try that stunt playing basketball again, you're out of here, right? I was like, for playing basketball? Like, to me, like if I got busted playing basketball, well, okay, you know.
My father's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I'll tell you another private story. My brother was in California in yeshiva, and he wanted to watch the Super Bowl. So he snuck out of yeshiva. He went to the supermarket. He watched this. This is 1996, 7. The rabbi called my mother, says, your son snuck off campus, and my mother's waiting. He's building up, and he's building up, and you know what he did? Says,
What did
he
he
watched
do?
the Super Bowl. My mother's like, oh, okay. Like she thought a movie, a club, or something. But in Israel, sports is forbidden. Anyway, the rabbi tells the kid, he says, listen, what's the big deal about this side? Explain it to me. So he explained, you have 11 guys on one side, 11 guys on the other side, and and whoever scores more, am I good or okay? Whoever scores more points. So the rabbi says, I'll tell you what to do. Very simple. He says, go to the stadium now, kick a ball in the net as many times, and that's it. You don't have a problem with Shabbat. Everybody wins. This rabbi, no, you don't understand. It's only when there's the challenge of 11 guys and other trying to stop you. The rabbi looked at the boy and said, exactly. He says, the beauty of keeping Shabbat sometimes, doing the mitzvah, is sometimes when there's a challenge with something against you. That's when is the beautiful mitzvah. When you could have, why is Yosef the greatest tzaddik of all time? Because he had this beautiful woman, putting on a new outfit every single day and enticing him, right? He's a 17-year-old kid in Egypt in a foreign land. He had her in his hands. She was his for the taking. And he said no. Not because it was easy, because it was hard. That's what makes the beauty of the mitzvah. It could be a guy, for example, says, it could be he doesn't have problems with a woman because it doesn't interest him. Therefore, so he doesn't have to, when we have a thought about something immoral, sinful, so what do we have to do? We have to change the channel. Think about something else. Think about something godly, whatever, right? He doesn't have that problems. He doesn't have to think about the greatness of God. To consciously create a spirit of ruach das v'yiras Hashem ameichay, to have the knowledge of God in his mind, right? How did Yosef overcome the temptation? Yosef, by the way, had a temptation. Don't think for a moment that Yosef did not have the temptation. Yosef wanted it inside, but you know what happened? He saw the image of his father before him, and he heard his father's voice in his head and says, is this what you want to be remembered for? Remember, you act now. Everything's written down, man. And he said, in the future, the Kohen Gadol is going to walk with the stones, right? He's going to have the 12 tribes. You want to be off those stones? You do this, you're out. But he heard, and his father, he heard his father's voice in his head. But this guy doesn't have that. In order to guard himself and not transgressing any prohibitive commandments. And the love in Hashem in his heart, the dafka became a mitzvah to connect to him with the fulfillment of the mitzvahs of Talmud Torah Kulam, and learning Torah outweighs everyone. Ella, it's enough. He's a refined guy. He's a nice Jew, right? He does whatever he has to do. He's called the lover of his name. But such a person, such a person, I'm on 220 in the old print. We go towards where it says 24th of Tevet. Such a person is not called a servant. He's not serving. A servant means you're sweating. To give a sports analogy. You have these kids. They're the best in Little League, and they're the best in high school, and they're the best in college.
But then they go to play for Yankees and they suck.
No, I'm saying then they come to the majors, and all of a sudden they ain't the best anymore. They realize they have to find within them a deeper level. They've never been challenged like this before. When everyone's as fast as you, everyone's as strong as you, everyone's as talented as you. So
You were a big fish in a little pond. Now you're a little fish
in a big pond.
yeah, exactly. So this guy, he has no challenge. He's not a servant of God because this natural love, any because you're a Jew. So a Jew wants to do a mitzvah. Every Jew wants to eat matzah on Pesach. You may doesn't realize it, but this is one of the things we spoke about in chapter 6, 7. If you remember, it's a crazy idea. I mean, a wild, powerful idea. A Jew's natural path is Torah. A Jew that doesn't see it, he has a problem. He doesn't realize the power, the holiness inside of him. But the influence that a Jew doesn't want is actually forward influence. Because a Jew's natural, what's Torah? Torah is Judaism. What's your soul? Judaism. It only makes sense logically that a Jew wants to do Judaism. The Jew wants a ham sandwich because something's wrong, right? It's like you have a soul autoimmune disorder. You don't realize what's going on, but because it's a very powerful idea. Because many times we think that really I want a ham sandwich, but I have to train myself not to want. No, really you want to put on tefillin, and really you want to eat matzah. The problem is because of forward influence and everything else. Like no one's born hating other people. No one's born a racist. And someone asked me, what's the solution in Gaza? You want to know what the solution is? Take over the TV, take over the schools. It's the only way. You start from the young. These Arab kids are not born wanting to kill Israelis. They're taught that. No one's born hating white people, black people, Asians. They're taught that. A Jew is not born a bad Jew or an unobservant Jew. He's born a Jew. It's only because of foreign influence that it gets corrupted, right? So this guy has natural Judaism, and he's serving God with his natural Judaism. It's natural raw talent. It hasn't been developed. You got to push yourself. I skipped over because it's an inheritance. Because even somebody who's naturally studious, actually, and he customized himself to learn, and it makes himself a second nature. It's enough with his natural love. You want to know when he's pushing himself, when he learns more than is normal. So the guy, let's say, every day has a shiur, set time. We'll stop here. Set time, he learns from 9 to 10, right? Maybe at 10 o'clock he says, you know something? I'm going to learn 5 more minutes. What's greater? The 9 to 10, the 10 to 10:05?
10 to 10:05.
That's what I'm going to say. 10 to 10:05. That's what we're going to learn next week. That in Babylonia, they had an interesting thing. If you hired a donkey and he went 10 parsa. 10 parsa is a distance. It was one price. When one more parsa, it was double the price. It's all about how you push yourself. Have a great week. Next week, no class. You gotta get ready for Pesach. Kosher your house and everything else. You guys want to watch a whole show? You can invite it to come to my house. We kasher the kitchen. Hot water, boiling water, flying all over the place.
All over.
Oh, you're putting on a show?
Towels. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Class next week.
I saw it last year.
Am I still recording or off?
2 weeks.
Off.
Yeah, you're still on.
Yeah,
No, still on.
Yeah.